All right, did we decide what we're talking about? I forgot. I forgot to write it down on my notes page here.
I was gonna say it's either us continuing like this and Collins has a fun time editing, or
I mean, we can. I mean, welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast, Pie After Dark edition.
no match edition.
Yeah, international break edition. I like it. You got me, Andy. You got Parker. You got Matt. We'll start it out. We'll just fly by the seat of our pants here. Parker, how you doing?
I like this non-structure. It's more fun, a little bit more free flowing. Overall pretty good. It's been fun having football weekends back with the NFL kicking off starting on Thursday. A banger of a Thursday night game to start us off, which is pretty fun. I feel like this NFL season has got some change in store, some changing of the guard of traditional powerhouses might not be as good as they have been. So I know it's way too early to predict that, but it was a fun NFL weekend. So weather's cooling off and football's on the TV, so it's kind of just that fun, that fun time. And the Rugby World Cup kicked off. I watched the France New Zealand match on Friday. I didn't get to any of the other stuff this weekend, but I was telling my wife it's a sports weekend. It's not necessarily my go-to sports because no F1 and no Chelsea, but it was still a sports weekend, which is fun. And like I said, when the weather starts to turn and you're out of the 90s, you're into the 70s, and it's sweater weather and sweatshirt and sweatpants weather. It's a good time, boys. So I am doing just great, all things considered. Matthew, how are you?
I, I honestly didn't think you guys were starting, but okay. You really caught me off guard. Sorry, I got caught looking at the Chelsea Megastore. I'm doing good. It was a somewhat relaxing weekend. We the whole family got up relatively early, and we did a 5K walk at Miller Park on Saturday for friends of ours that were holding an event for their nonprofit. Good friends of ours, we all know them. They unfortunately lost their son to a to an issue, but yeah, so they were there kind of helping with this project. And so yeah, we did the 5K and just kind of got out. It was a beautiful day, showed some support for them, and then I cut the grass, made a bunch of dinners and stuff like that. So all in all, just a very kind of laid back and productive weekend. So can't really complain, and the weather's been beautiful here. So really excited just to be able to get outside and just kind of do our thing. So all's good. Collins, what about you? What have you been up to?
Busy, 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 busy. Went and touched some trucks at touch truck day with Aiden on Saturday morning, and went to a cookout with some buddies Saturday night. And today, for the first time ever, went to Festa Italiana here in Milwaukee, which is kind of like the last festival of the year or of the summer. I'd never had a cannoli before today. So I had my first cannoli. It was delicious. I don't know why I waited 35 years to do it, but it's good stuff. No, so it was good weekend, and Packers kicked the shit out of the Bears, which is always enjoyable. Jordan Love, I don't know if you know this, Jordan Love is undefeated in his career against the Bears. They I told Aiden that the Bears hadn't beat the Packers since December of 2018. Aiden goes, "That's half my life." Oh man, good for you, buddy. No, so
Speaking
it
of
was
half
good.
his life and most of ours, I saw a crazy stat on the Packers. It was Jordan Love is the third starting quarterback on week one since 1993. Like, I know we know this, but it still blows my mind like that stat is real.
No, another stat they dropped on the telecast today was in the last 30 years, the Packers are 47-15 against the Bears. So in our lifetimes, they've just dominated. So I know it's not the football we usually cover on this podcast, but the NFL's back, so we gotta shout it out a little bit here. But something did come up in the cookout I went to. We were talking a little footy with good friend of the pod, Joe, as well as some other guys who are new to the Premier League within the last year or two. Also new fathers within the last year or two. So Matt, probably similar perspective to you, but there was a debate of what is the best Premier League match time. What is your favorite time to watch your club play in the Premier League? We had probably 5 different answers to this, and I'm curious what your guys' take is on that.
Yeah. It depends on the day. So from my standpoint, usually my son is up relatively early. Luckily, I'm very fortunate that my wife usually gets up with him. So I get an extra, half hour or so of sleep. I do kind of like the 6:30 games just because it's quiet. If I have my son, yeah, I'll entertain him and everything, and sometimes I get lucky and he just falls asleep right on me, so I can just watch the game. So he's good. Wife is still asleep. All's perfect. But I think in general for me, I like the 9 a.m. game. Just because even at that point, son's been up, wife is up, they're usually hanging out. He's more used to taking a nap with her. So that kind of frees me up to go out to the garage and watch the game in peace and kind of do my thing. So I'm gonna kind of lean towards the 9 a.m. game.
If I am watching the game at home, it's the early slot. So 6:30, 7:30, depending on the time change. But I like waking up, making myself a coffee, letting the dogs out, and then just kind of watching the game before the sun has gone up. But if I'm going to the pub, I like the 10 o'clock round. So it's, a little bit more time to get up, get some stuff done, and then head out there and, have a beer or two, where it's a touch more acceptable to have a beer or two, because it's 10, 11 o'clock at that point. If it's 8, it's a bit harder. And I feel like if I have those breakfast beers now in my 30s, they tend to affect the rest of my day a lot more than they used to. I usually need a nap those days, and it takes a lot out of me. So yeah, kind of depends on the situation. But since I watch most games from home, I like the early slot. I do enjoy waking up about 15, 20 minutes before game time, and then just kind of getting into it.
See, I'm with you guys. I like the early slot that, again, depending on the time change, 6, 7 a.m., whatever it happens to be. But I like it if I'm going to the Highbury, because you guys know me. For being in sales and having a podcast and all that, I don't like people. Like, I don't like big crowds of people. So I like going to Highbury when there's like no one there. And there's like 4 or 5 people there, and it's just the people, like the usual people, right? So I like the early game in those instances. I don't like going to Highbury when it's the 9 o'clock game and there's 5 games on and there's a million people there. Like, that's just not my jam. So if I'm going to stay home, I'll take those. But I wanted to throw one out there that Joe threw out yesterday, and that was the Sunday 10 a.m. game that ends at noon, where the Packers then play at noon. That, I didn't even think about that one, but that is a primo slot right there. You are just parked on the couch for hours at that point. But no, very, very interesting to hear you guys are with me on the early game. I thought I was kind of in the minority on that one.
Dude, it's especially as I've gotten older, it's those early sports. So it's kind of why I've gravitated towards F1 as well. It's fun to get up and watch your sport, and then you have the rest of the day out of you to get done what you need to get done, or take care of things before the day kind of gets kicked off. And I feel like when those games are at 1 or 2 o'clock, they're just sort of in the middle of the day. They're kind of parked, and you can't do things before, and it's hard to just do some stuff afterwards. And so kind of breaks up your day a little bit. Whereas get it out of the way, get it done with, and have the rest of the day ahead of you.
It looks like our next 6:30 game is going to be a holiday or Halloween weekend, October 28th, at home to Brentford, 6:30 a.m. Central Time. So we got a little ways before we get one of those in again.
I feel like last year we had like 4 or 5 right away in the beginning of the year. It just felt like it was all early all the time.
Now
we had every 6:30 slot last year. Collins and I know you and I were up and at Highbury a handful of times for those 6:30 games. Yeah, it seemed like every single week it was like, oh great, another 6:30, another 6:30.
leaving the bar drunk at 8 a.m. Yep, that sounds about right.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like you guys at all.
All right. Well, boys, our next couple matches here are 8 a.m. matches. Parker, for you 7. I believe that's how it works, right?
Mhm.
But we've got about 4 matches coming up here before we really hit the buzzsaw of the fixture list, where we play all the big boys. So we've got Bournemouth away coming up next weekend, followed by Villa at home. We've got a Carabao Cup match in there that we're going to ignore for now. We've got Fulham away, and then Burnley away before we get into the Arsenals, the Cities, the Spurs, all of that. So out of Bournemouth, Villa, Fulham, and Burnley, how many points do you realistically think we get out of that fixture list? And B, how many do we need to stay competitive at minimum?
See, this scares me. This scares me more than the buzzsaw, just because, and I say this a bit tongue in cheek, but at least with the buzzsaw, we don't have too much of expectations. They're realistically looking at this fixture list, we should be winning all these games. We should, if we're thinking of who Chelsea is, what our DNA is, the team that we have on paper, yada yada yada, we should be taking 12 points out of this. But I'm not confident to say that that's going to be the case. I realistically, I kind of set the over under at 6 is kind of where I peg it to be. I think if we get 7, I think, which is 2 wins and a draw out of that, I think that's pretty realistic. I think to stay in the hunt, we need 9 plus, 9 or 10. Because I think we're going to kind of get passed up here pretty soon. And again, to echo your point, Collins, it's before the very, very tough spot. So then when you look forward to the Arsenal, Tottenham, City, after that, realistically, we're not going to take many from that. I hope we do, but I can't confidently say that today. So I think we take 7. That's my sort of conservative guess. And I think I don't know how to say this, moderately happy about that, not pissed off about that. Given what I've seen so far, I think that's pretty ish.
So where are those, where are those 6-7 points coming from out of those 4, do you think?
I think Bournemouth and Burnley are wins, and then Fulham and Villa, you can call it either way. One's a draw, one's a loss. It's kind of how I see it. I think we could lose to either of them. I think we could lose to both of them, to be completely honest. So that's where like 6 is kind of the benchmark with the 2. I mean, Bournemouth hasn't won a game, neither has Burnley. So I think we have to win those games. We just have to. The other 2 are up in the air. So
I'm very. I like 6 as the base. I'll honestly take the under. I don't see us beating Villa. I just don't. I think they're playing too well right now. And with Unai Emery, kind of now having more of control over the team, and everybody kind of being together, I think they had a very good preseason. And yeah, they lost Tyrone Mings early on for the season, but they've been playing pretty well, at least some of the matches I've seen. So they bother me. So I can easily see us losing that game. The other ones, again, like you said, it's kind of a crapshoot. I see something like the Fulham game. I can see us losing on like a 90th minute goal or something like that, which honestly you could probably say that about every single one of those remaining 3 games. But I think Burnley, we handle business. I think Bournemouth, we handle business, but it's closer than it should be. And then the Fulham one is one that I'm 50-50 on right now. So I think for me, 5 is realistic. I think we should be shooting for 9. I think we almost have to still be relatively competitive. If we don't, then it is going to be very tough as we enter that gauntlet stretch, of all the big boy teams in the Premier League. It's going to be very tough. So yeah, I think 5 for me is realistic. 9 is ideal.
I'll take your 9 and I will set that to realistic. I think we even get the over on that. I think we come away with 10 points out of this stretch. And I think we need 10 points to stay relevant. And here, I know with the way Chelsea played over the last year or so, like that's crazy talk. But hear me out here. These 4 teams we're playing are the bottom 4 for goals conceded in the Premier League so far this year. Burnley being last. Fulham's given up 10, which is second most. Villa at 9 and Bournemouth at 8. Bournemouth should be a pushover. Again, Parker, you mentioned they haven't won yet. Villa have been a roller coaster so far this year. They've had ups, they've had downs. They've got smashed by Newcastle, who got smashed by someone else just a week ago. Fulham is, I think, the one where it probably ends in a draw just because it's the local derby, right? And you never know what's going to come out of that. And Burnley's garbage. So I hate that I'm setting the bar high here, but I think 10 points is achievable in this next 4. And I would be willing to guarantee 9 of those points, especially because we are the team with the most chances created and the most shots in the league. Eventually, law of averages, that has to start figuring itself out.
Just ask Timo Werner.
On that note, so another cause for optimism here, and I'm curious if you guys think it's going to be similar, is that we've got 3-4 players coming back from injury coming out of this international break. Armando Broja is going to be coming back. Benoit Badiashile, Reece James, and Romeo Lavia was supposed to be coming back, but apparently tore something in his ankle, is going to be out long term now. So with reinforcements on the way, does this improve our chances? Does it not really change anything, or does it hamper things?
I mean, it's a gift and a curse. It's good players back, which is great, but they haven't been playing with us, so they have to work themselves into the team. I think weirdly, Benoit Badiashile is probably the most impactful of the players that you mentioned, just because I think it allows us to do some things defensively that we haven't been able to do. Not saying Malo Gusto is a perfect 1-for-1 for Reece, but he's done a pretty good job of replacing Reece. And I think our problems are on defense, not as much up top. I know we haven't scored as many goals as we should have, but I think Benoit's impact is going to be pretty outstanding for us. So it just might take some time to kind of, again, refigure out who we are and refigure out what our system is if we do shift to a back four or kind of tinker with some of the things in the lineup. But we've talked about depth and who can make a difference on the subs. And if you're adding those three players, they're either A, impact subs day one, or they're B, starters, and then the people that they've replaced become impact subs. So it gives us our depth back where we haven't been super deep, that have people that can come off and really make a big difference in the games for us. So it's it'll be great. It just might not be great next Sunday.
I mean, so I like the call out for Body Shield being a bigger impact. I agree. Just because if you look at what we've been doing without Reese on the right, we have been pumping the hell out of the right side. Malo Gusto's been doing a damn fine job. I don't think much really changes with Reese there from that perspective. Maybe a ball or two better into the box, maybe. Defensively, Malo Gusto did well. Reese, you can expect the same, maybe slightly better, but again, I don't see that being a huge change. So, Broya, you don't know what he's gonna look like when he comes back. Obviously, he had an ACL, which we all know those are extremely hit and miss as far as how healthy you come back. How's he going to gel with everybody? I did see that Mudryk went down in their game against England. He went out in like the 88th minute, kind of holding his calf and kind of signaling that he couldn't go on anymore. So I don't know how long he's going to be out for. So that's, another kind of hit. I mean, not that he plays a full 90 anyways, or even starts for that matter, but still he's a kind of a big impact guy off the bench, or at least he can be. So to answer your question, Collins, does it give me any positivity? Slightly, but not much.
Yeah, first of all, I just want a real quick shout out Malo Gusto. I know I did this a couple pods ago, but now just listening to you guys, oh man, Reece James is coming back, and there's really not going to be a whole lot of difference when he slots back into that role between him and Malo Gusto. That is a hell of a lot of praise for that was he 20 a 20-year-old who last year was playing for a very shitty Lyon team. So I think that just it speaks to the work that Malo Gusto has put in. No, I think the biggest piece coming back here. I like the Body of Shield shout out. I like Reece James shout out. At least offensively he's gonna be a little bit better than Malo Gusto. But Armando Broya, Nicholas Jackson works his ass off every single match, right? But you can see towards the end of matches where maybe he's not making those runs, maybe he's a step slow, and it's got to be fatigue. You can't make those runs 90 minutes a match every single match. So I think if you can bring Broya in the 70th minute, 65th minute, something like that, and put fresh legs making very similar runs, because we've seen Broya make very similar runs in the limited amount of time we saw him at Chelsea last year. I think he's going to cause problems. And, with the amount of academy guys we've sold off, and, I can't speak to his mindset, but you got to think maybe he's got something to prove, especially after being out for about a year now. I'm hoping it's going to lead to goals. But I think he could be the X factor in this team over the next couple matches. Absolutely.
One thing we don't talk a ton about, sometimes we do, but it's just like at levels of expectations, and a lot of the players that come in with these massive price tags on their foreheads and have these big expectations. Armando Broya is one of the few that he doesn't have that like super level of hype around him, and so I guess it's all going to be a little bit of gravy with him. It's all positive. If he comes in and scores some goals, great. If he doesn't, I just don't think that he has the same level of expectation around him. So it it can only go up. So I think it does kind of free him up to do some good things, which is very much not like the rest of our team. The rest of our team has these massive contracts, massive numbers attached to them, and so they will quote never live up to that hype. But Broya can outkick his coverage. He can outsell his expectations easily.
All right. Well, turning to the off the pitch stuff, I want to start with a conversation we were having a little bit pre-pod here. So I told the guys this weekend I was originally looking at the away kits, and we started looking at the away shorts. Matt got distracted by Chelsea Megastore. I decided I'm buying a women's keeper kit this year for Musovic, who's been one of my favorite players, one of my favorite follows on Twitter. That's gonna be mine this year without the shirt sponsor across the front, because that's gonna be a collector's item one day. But I know in the past we've all had debates. Matt famously has the curse of whoever he picks ends up getting sold or leaves the team or has a career-ending injury or something. Parker historically seems like picks the young guy, and it hit or miss. Fair, right? So what kits are you guys buying this year, if any at all?
I already bought the blue warm-up kit. So I already have that one. Ironically enough, going through the mega store, I was thinking maybe just get a Mudryk jersey, just call it. Or as a secondary option, I did see a lovely Sam Kerr jersey, so I did take a quick peek at that one. But the other one that I would really like to do would be a Reece James jersey, but again, my jersey curse, I'm very
Don't you
hesitant
dare
to
end that man's career.
Yeah, I'm very reluctant to do that. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to figure that one out. So it'll be up in the air for me for a while.
Did you do home, away, or are you going to wait for the mint green one?
Right now, I would do the away. It fits my kind of style, kind of out there. So I really like it. And just looking at the numbering and everything, and just the white and the contrast, like I really like that. So I would definitely be going with the away kit for this year.
It's funny. Again, we all were kind of just browsing around the store. One thing I'm going to say, which I think is hilarious, is like our rumored next year's home kit has already been talked about. You're shaking your head no. Collins, no.
It's so nope.
I think people have mocked up, what they think based on color scheme, but I don't think anything's been shared based on that. I think they just have put together some drawings based, but the color scheme is orange, right? Like that's what I'm hearing. I find it hilarious and incredibly ironic that our next year's home kit is already being talked about when we don't have 3 full kits yet this year unveiled. We barely had 2. The away kit was just debuted when, like 2 weeks ago, when we signed Cole. It was when we signed Cole Palmer, right?
One week ago.
Right. It's hilarious. Like how are we talking about next year already? And anyway, just ridiculous that it takes this long, and it's been this way for a while. I guess it's a Chelsea thing, right? It's a 90s thing, it's a Chelsea thing. So back to the original question. I too, Collins, was thinking about a sponsorless kit as a bit of a misnomer. When you look back at the rest of your jerseys, it'll be a weird one to have a sponsorless kit. I did pick up a like $30 knockoff from someone online, from someone who is running a bootleg Instagram store of the home kit. So I have that. And then on its way right now is the away with a number 8 on it.
There you go. There you go.
So I got the Enzo kit. I was debating between Reece James and Enzo, ironically, and I gave the nod to the kid. So, yeah, I really like the away kit. I think it's really sharp. I know those shorts might not look great on the pitch, Collins, to your point, and it might look a little weird. There's no contrast there, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But overall, I think the kit's really sharp. I am just like really hoping that everyone is wrong and that mint green is not coming as our third kit, because that just does not feel like us at all. So that sucks. But overall, I say outside of the away, everything else is kind of just meh. But like I said, I got my home one pretty cheap, so I wasn't too worried about it.
So I just put up the, first of all, Parker, props to you for 2 kits this year, even if one's a bootleg knockoff. I'm always tempted to click those buttons on Instagram, but but I just put up for the guys the most recent mock-up of the third kit, the mint green third kit with Infinite Athlete across the front. This looks better than what I thought it was going to look like. I may now hold out for one of these.
You gotta be kidding me. You're ridiculous.
No, but if I had to pick a men's player, I would go the away kit. They don't have my size, which pissed me the fuck off. And I don't feel like waiting. You know, I got money in my pocket; it's burning a hole, so I gotta spend that. But yeah, it would go Enzo. But I'll let you have that this year, Parker.
Thank you, sir. You'll have another 7 seasons to get an Enzo kit.
Yeah, right. Not if the most recent rumors are true that he's already pondering a move to Real Madrid from one of those crazy unreliable sources. All right. Well, going from a sponsorless kit to the sponsor, it's nearly wrapped up here. It's gonna be, I think I read 45 million pounds or 48 million pounds for this year from Infinite Athlete to be the front of shirt sponsor. 1-year deal. They will then move to be the sleeve sponsor, replacing Whalefin. Riyadh Air, the national airline of Saudi Arabia, owned by the Public Investment Fund, will then become
Mahrez.
Yes, Riyad Mahrez will become the front. God, now I'm just picturing the Barcelona fake Shakira sponsor kit. No, Riyadh Air will then take over on a $50 million a year deal, or 50 million pound deal. But there's some controversy around that, you know, again, with them being owned by PIF and with it being oil state fund, whatever you want to call it. It seems like Chelsea just can't get it right with sponsors. I'm going to go first on this one. I personally don't care. It could be a gambling site. I don't participate in gambling. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. I don't even know what half these gambling sites are. At the end of the day, it's all just one giant intertangled web of nonsense. And you know, if Newcastle United is willing to give us 50 million pounds a year, cool. Like good for them. Just we can't be the team going into every season wearing 4 or 5 matches in a row with no sponsor. Like it's not a good look from a group that claims to be very business savvy. I don't care. I don't care who the sponsor is. Just make sure it's not 3 and make sure it doesn't look stupid on the kit. But what do you guys think?
I don't care. Just something. at the end of the day, the whole idea around, where the Premier League is banning gambling sites from being sponsors. Realistically, nobody in the Premier League gives a shit where the money's coming from as long as the money is coming in. It's a big business. That's the way it runs, right? We're not dumb enough to believe that this shit doesn't happen. I don't care. Pick somebody. I just get something done. I do. I find it kind of weird that we're on a 1-year loan option to sleeve kind of deal with Infinite Athlete, but whatever. Whatever works. I personally think I would like the logo better than whale fin on the sleeve, better than having just a fucking whale just right there on the sleeve. But again, who cares as long as bills are being paid, whatever. So yeah.
I care more than you guys. It's not like the hill I'm willing to die on, but here's what I care about. I think Chelsea's under a microscope always, and the hypocrisy around what's allowed to go through and what's not. When it comes to Chelsea, like we do get scrutinized heavier than pretty much everyone else. I understand why Paramount Plus got blocked for viewership, and if you're viewing games, you don't want your direct sponsor to be broadcast on that. Like I get it. It would be like Coke and Pepsi fighting. Like it just, there are some things like that exist, and they're unfortunate, and I feel like everyone should grow up on it. But people get testy when they're showing the games. They don't want it. They want it to look the way they want it to look. So I get that. But if we're okay with Newcastle being owned by PIF, if that's not a deal breaker, if you will, then they should be able to be in the sponsorship game too. I think that's a degree less. But what I know doesn't get contemplated 100%, but I wish did get contemplated is I think logos aren't all created equal, and how a sponsorship looks on a jersey does matter. We look back, and not that we're all like Samsung fans, like we all just buy Samsung TVs always 100% of the time, but the Samsung jersey looking back was clean, that logo. And I think similarly, like the Trivago logo on the training kits, it looks clean, it looks nice. I think we all could get behind the Infinite Athletic, the way that the logo looked great. Whereas 3, one of our recent shirt sponsors, just look like trash and just doesn't fit the way that shirts are normally designed. And the folks at Nike have zero bit of creativity and zero bit of maneuverability around, hey, we've got this goofy ass fucking 3. Is there a way we can design the kit to make it look a little bit better and put things in a different way? Nope, we're just gonna slap jerseys that have come out of the pre-canned bin of this is what we use for templates, and we'll just put a Chelsea logo and we'll put their 3 sponsor on there and we'll call it a day. I know it's more than that, but it's what it feels like, because I mean, you can look at the 5, 6, 7 kits that Nike does a year, and you can see a lot of similarities in what they do on a year-to-year basis. I think Chelsea gets slightly more creativity put forth in it. I know they're not part of like the pure template, but it's still, I mean, there's parts of the US men's national team and the England national team jersey that showed up on our kits this year, and there's just recycled and reused, and like I said, just feels like a lack of creativity there. So all that to say is I think that finding a sponsor that has like a clean look and a clean logo, it matters. It's not deal breaking, and it's not, if someone's willing to bid 15-20 million dollars more than their competitors, then they're going to win it. It's a business world. But as a consumer of products, when we buy kits, I do want it to look nice. I do value when a sponsorship looks nice on a kit.
Now Parker, you piqued my curiosity there. Has whether or not a sponsor on a kit looking good or not looking good, has that directly or indirectly affected you purchasing from that sponsor?
Yeah, it has. If you look back at like my most recent 10 purchases, I've bought more training kit gear than I have kits during the 3 era of jerseys, and what was Yokohama before that. There's a few exceptions to that. I bought a Yokohama kit when I was at Stamford Bridge, and I bought a 3 kit that has Azpilicueta with the Club World Cup on it because it's Dave. Like, I wanted that kit, and it was the last trophy that he won, and I wanted that sort of to be commemorated. So it doesn't like impact every decision, but I lean towards the training kit stuff because I feel like I can wear it more often, and I wear it in more general circumstances, like just buying hoodies and things like that. So I'm leaning away towards the sponsorship stuff, and overall just the way that our kits have looked in the past 3-4 years. I just haven't been super impressed with them. And I got a chance to buy kits without sponsorships on them, and I did this year. Like, there's a reason, and there have been years that I haven't bought kits, period, and just gotten like a training shirt or a training jacket, something like that. So I like wearing training jackets when I travel. That's kind of my go-to. So that's where I've been leaning, and I would say it's partially related to sponsorship.
But Matt, does a good looking sponsor affect your consumerism at all?
Not too much. I'm more concerned about like what the kit looks like. So a great example would be the one from 2 years ago. Was that 2 years ago or last year? The 70s. The one from 2 years ago. I know you guys were not a huge fan of that one. I really liked it, so I went ahead and got it. Yeah, it's got a big ass fucking 3 on it, but I just like the actual kit itself, not necessarily who the sponsor was. So it doesn't matter a ton for me, but if there's like if there's something very off-putting, then yeah, I probably won't. It'll probably hinder me from buying it. And Parker, to your point, like I didn't want a sponsorless kit, so I went with the Trivago, the blue Trivago pre-match kit or warm-up kit, whatever it is. I liked it. I like Trivago. It's simple. It doesn't make anything look bad. So I was like, yep, I'll go with that. So it doesn't hinder me that much, or I haven't come across something that would make me go, yeah, absolutely not, just because of the sponsor.
Seeing on the actual consumer side, I will say I think a clean logo on a clean kit goes a long way. Samsung was a sponsor starting in what, 2005, 2004, something like that. Yeah, I've owned Chelsea kits since then, and I don't know if it's a direct or indirect thing, but I just have never gone for the iPhone. I have no interest in it. I've always been a loyal Samsung manufactured phone person. I buy Samsung TVs. I've recently found myself using Trivago to look up vacation stuff because that's a very I don't know, I think I think in my head oh, that's a very clean, nice looking thing, right? Now we don't have access to 3 here in America, but I would not I would not join in with 3, but Yokohama tires I thought looked nice. So when I go to tire stores, those are always the first ones I notice. It's the little subconscious thing. So I think absolutely if you can get a clean logo on a clean kit, and even the kit itself, right? Man, we were sponsored by Adidas for the longest time. And for the longest time, not I bought Nike shoes for a long time, in grade school and whatnot. And then I got to high school and I've been Adidas ever since. I can't remember the last pair of Nikes that I've had outside of playing at Oshkosh where we had that deal, right? So yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. So yeah, hopefully Riyadh Air has a nice clean logo, and maybe we'll be as a pod flying out to Saudi Arabia. The pod goes Arab.
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
All right. Well, boys, any other topics we want to tackle tonight? Oh, Parker, we missed it last week. I almost missed it again today. What do you think of Cole Palmer?
It's a signing that I feel like no one's talking about, which is interesting. I mean, I know we got a little bit of like signing fatigue with our transfer window that just ended, but uh I thought he looked decent in the 22 minutes that we saw him or whatever it was, guessing here, but hard to evaluate. I mean, he got there Friday, the day before, and so got one training session in and got out there for a cameo. He gives us some depth. He gives us some creativity. I don't even is he going to play striker? Is he going to play winger? Like where's he going to be at?
I think he's a right wing.
See, I've seen right wing and also slotting into that number 10 role where Nkunku should be.
So I mean, when Nkunku's out or while he's out, it'll be helpful. Right winger, he'll also be able to step in for Sterling on occasions and play in our sort of rotating squad. So he gives us some depth when we're 100% full healthy. I don't know exactly how he slots in yet, but he's got a chance to make a name for himself in the interim. So you play the hot hand if he comes in and does some good things, even when people are coming back, they'll have to fight back for their spot. So I think it's a good signing.
Yeah, I I was actually watching, I think it was City in an FA Cup game last year or 2 years ago, and he was playing and he was tearing people apart. I think he had like 2 goals and an assist. I'm like, okay, this kid's actually pretty good. But so I've seen him play. But yeah, I think he's going to be fun. Again, he's very kind of under the radar, but he was kind of overshadowed by Phil Foden. Like Phil Foden was the next guy in line to come up. I think Cole Palmer was just behind Phil Foden, so he didn't really get the attention, but he can play. So I'm excited to see what he can do with this team.
Yeah, I think how we started this conversation out with where does he play, I think is the most important thing. Because I think he's one of those, he's like the Ruben Loftus-Cheek of the attack, right? Or maybe he's a jack of all trades. He can play a little bit of everywhere. So I think the real question is he going to be, serviceable at every position, or is he going to excel at one or two given positions? Kind of like, Ruben was good at a lot of things, but he wasn't great at Chelsea, at one or two things specifically. So I wanted to share this with you guys, and I know this is an audio medium, so the listeners can't see this, but this is I pulled up for the guys a comparison between Cole Palmer in the 487 professional minutes he has against Christian Pulisic, who, as Americans, we all know very well. He had kind of an average Chelsea career, I would say. And really the only differences are that Palmer hasn't scored a professional goal outside of, cup matches. So Pulisic has got him beat in goals and, expected goals and all that. Palmer in a limited sample size has outshot Pulisic on average. Usually has a higher XG in buildup. But other than that, he's pretty much dead on with Pulisic in all these other attacking categories. So I think that's a pretty good, even if that's his ceiling, right? I think that's a good ceiling for Cole Palmer. Now, if it's a floor, then that's even better. That's something we're talking about is, he's going to be a special player. We're going to be talking about how we fleeced Man City in this deal. But I think if he can provide, if he can set up chances this season in the limited opportunities that he gets, or the opportunities he gets until Nkunku comes back, I think he's going to set himself up pretty nicely.
I almost see him. I see him playing more of, and Collins, I'm sorry for using his name, but it's the only comparison I can go with. Just by watching him in those 20 odd minutes that he was there, he was all over the place. Like, he was coming back, getting the ball. I saw him go dribble basically sideline to sideline. I see him being more of a floating kind of position, not really set. Like, you were on this side of the pitch and that's it. Like, I see him kind of more of a Mason Mount type kind of float player. I'm only using Mount because I don't want to compare him to like Aiden Hazard, who would just take the ball and do what he wants. Mount, I think, was kind of just floating around there, even when he was at his prime at Chelsea. That's kind of when he was at his best, when he would get in those little pockets and then be able to create from there. I think you're going to see a lot of that with Cole Palmer. So I think that's probably where I'd lean as far as a comp. But I do think that he is a very talented player, and I'm actually excited to see, again, what he's going to be capable of and how he's going to gel with this team and what he can produce, given the opportunities that are put before him.
That's a good shout, Matt. I like the Mount comparison, and the statistical analysis does as well. Really, the only difference between those two outside of the goals, again, with Cole Palmer having a very limited scope, is passes leading to a shot. But even that, Palmer is right at about the league average, so I think there's room for improvement there as well. So I like the floating position of Mason Mount there. I think that he would slot in well there. So what happens to Cole Palmer when Christian Nkunku comes back?
And Lavia. Like, I just think, like, we don't really know what our best 11 is. I don't think anyone does. I don't think Poch knows yet either. So I see a lot of like players who can kind of do a lot of this similar things, and not a ton of players that sort of differentiate themselves. So it'll be quite interesting to see who plays today and then who plays once we're at full strength, if in fact we're ever at full strength.
I think the biggest thing for me is that, thinking about it now, this whole season is going to be, what is our best squad? People coming back, people getting injured, new signings, who's playing well with other people, things like that. Like, for all we know, Cole Palmer could take over where we thought Noni was going to take over for Raz. Very possible. In Nkunku, maybe he takes over for Jackson in the 9, and then you have Cole Palmer fitting in as a 10. Like, who knows, right? Maybe you have 2 up top. There are just so many options right now. I think once people come back, it's going to be this revolving door of, right, what's our 11 for this week? Okay, what changes have we made from the previous week? So on and so forth. It's going to be sliding people in and out. And I think it's going to be a very large puzzle that has to be solved. But I don't think we're at a point where we can solve it right now.
Is Ben Chilwell still playing on the left wing 4 months from now when Christian Nkunku comes back?
I don't think he should be playing on the left wing now, or as a left winger. He should be a left wing back, not a left winger. So just be very clear about that. I still think it should be Mudryk on the left wing, and have Chills play that left wing back. But again, if Carney's back, if you have Mudryk 100%, if you then have Cole Palmer, if you maybe think, hey, we'll put Nkunku out there, or like there are just so many options right now that it'd be impossible to try and figure out a best 11. I think with this new the implementation of 5 subs, that changes things drastically, because it's no longer your best 11 and then 1 or 2 other people. It is, what is your best 16, and who's going to be able to make an impact. So I think that changes things drastically, and we just have to kind of wait and see what pieces are going to work.
I think Chills as a left back and a back 4 makes more sense.
Agreed. All right. Well, I'm
I
glad
think-
we
I
can
think
all
a four-
agree.
I think a
Go.
4-2-3-1 is probably, looking at the talent on paper, looking at our team, I think that's going to play to most of our strengths. I think that's going to be what we need to see to shore up our defense and score more goals. I think it solves both problems, and I think it takes advantage of the squad that we have.
Man, I'm glad we can all agree on something. It makes me happy. Yeah, Chilwell in the back 4, absolutely. And then, yeah, hopefully Mudryk by then has been given a game or a stretch of games where he can grow in confidence. If not, God, go with another fucking option there, right? All right. Well, boys, I think that wraps up our international Pod After Dark, just winging it, whatever the hell we want podcast for this week. So make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us at Flag Down Pod anywhere you get your social media. Any closing thoughts, boys?
Good to see people coming back. Thank God for international break.
Until next week, boys.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.